redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. What do lesbian groomers, Hunter Biden, and Anthony Blinken all have in common? We'll be talking about that next on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. That includes Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. We're on YouTube. Join our YouTube show. Subscribe to that, rate and review it. That'll help us grow. The same is true with Rumble, the Carl Jackson Show on all of these sites. And we appreciate you tuning in to this edition again of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I'm on all things social media, Instagram, Getter, Twitter, the Carl Jackson Show. Stay tuned for some quick program messaging and we'll get right into the podcast. All right, welcome back to the show here. Guys, let me just quickly tell you about Birch Gold Group. There's a couple of things that are happening in the news today. You're going to want to be prepared. You want to make sure that you have tangible assets. You want to have things that you can trade just to be on the safe side. You want to, if you can buy a home, I would say buy a home. Make sure that you pay off your debt. Have things that you can trade with neighbors. In the, God forbid, there's a natural disaster, economic disaster like Biden and the White House, anything of that nature. But I want to talk to you quickly about Birch Gold Group. Former President Trump recently issued a warning from a Mar-a-Lago quote. Here's what he said. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. He's right. Some experts believe there are serious threats to the future value of the U.S. dollar because of inflation, deficit spending, and our increasing national debt. One asset that has withstood famine, wars, and economic upheaval dating back to biblical times is gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or your 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't pay a penny out of pocket. That is right. All you have to do is text Carl to 989898. You can claim your free info kit on gold. Think about this. In March of this year, when the banks faltered, the stock market faltered and gold surged. Birch Gold can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. So please text my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold. Again, text Carl to 989898. Okay, guys, what do lesbian groomers Anthony Blinken and Hunter Biden have in common? They are all corrupt, perverted, and they'll get away with they'll get away with it. They'll get away with it. You have criminals that exist. I believe in Anthony Blinken. I'll bring you a story today. You have a criminal. That is Hunter Biden. I'll bring you the latest on Hunter Biden and some of his baby mama drama. And you have lesbian groomers in the WNBA and other places in women's sports that no one is talking about. And they get to be perverted and they don't get in trouble because they're Democrats, because they vote left, because they donate left. And this is why it's essentially hands off. So these people can be corrupt. They can be perverts. But as long as they vote for the Democrat Party, as long as they donate to the Democrat Party, no one cares. And guys, we've got to start holding them to the same standard. This is why the rule of law is so essential in the United States of America. It does provide equality, right? Equal. We don't want equity, all right? We want equality. We want equal treatment under the law. And this should happen, but unfortunately, it's not happening to people that are on the left. Before I get into this story, there was on Revolver News, women's sports, best kept secret. It's one gigantic Club Med for lesbian groomers. Also, this from the Daily Mail, an exclusive. Secretary of State Blinken and his cabinet secretary wife were embroiled in an alleged attempt to influence U.S. officials on behalf of Burisma. And may have known Hunter was on the board despite telling investigators otherwise. Guys, let's face it. We touched on this before. We're going to go a little deeper into this today. He knew. He knew. These corrupt fools knew. We have the most corrupt administration, at least in modern history, and I believe perhaps American history, that is setting in the White House right now. And we have to bring these people to account. The only way that we will get to do that is not only to win in 2024, but I want you to take a look at any Republican victories that need to be had in 2023. There's special elections going on. There's an election in Virginia, so on, etc. We need to pay attention to these elections, donate our money where we can. If we don't live there, we've got to start racking up some wins. It's really as simple as that. That is the only way that we can fight back against the left. Besides a complete all-out armed civil war, and no one wants that. No one wants that, all right? So we've got to defeat these fools at the ballot box. Even if it means implementing their tactics, ballot chasing, ballot harvesting, or what have you, to do so wherever it is legal. But let me bring you this news. Let me pull it up on my phone. The hat tip, Daily Wire, if I can find it real quickly here. You guys know that there was another balloon. Now I can't find the story, but there was another balloon that was found. So U.S. military releases new details about a balloon that flew over Hawaii. That's right. The U.S. military released new details. This happened yesterday afternoon about another mysterious balloon that recently flew over Hawaii late last week. We're just hearing about it as of yesterday. It broke as if it were breaking news, yet they knew about it late last week. Applying newly established parameters for monitoring U.S. airspace, the Department of Defense and the FAA detected and observed on April 28th an unmanned balloon off the coast of Hawaii, floating at approximately 36,000 feet. This is a quote according to a Department of Defense spokesperson. The spokesperson continues on. Ownership of the balloon is unknown, but there is no indication that it was maneuvering or being controlled by a foreign or adversarial actor, the spokesperson says. He goes on to say the balloon did not transit directly over defense critical infrastructure or other U.S. government sensitive sites, nor did it pose a military or physical threat to people on the ground. Where have we heard this before? We don't trust the Department of Defense. We don't trust our military. We certainly don't trust the Biden administration. It is a sad state of affairs, but this is where we land right now. Based on these observations, the Secretary of Defense, this according to the spokesperson, the Secretary of Defense, that would be Lloyd Austin, concurred with the recommendation of his military commanders that no action need be taken against the balloon. The statement concluded the balloon is now out of Hawaii's airspace and territorial waters. This is troublesome. NBC News reported on the balloon earlier on Monday and said that officials believe that it is currently headed toward Mexico. We all know what happened in February with the Chinese spy balloon that traversed across the United States, flying even in figure eight motions to collect data from U.S. military sensitive installations. The U.S. military, Lloyd Austin, the Biden administration claimed that they never collected anything that was sensitive, only to find out later that, in fact, they did. And the Biden administration, and sadly, those that were spokespeople for our military, completely lied to us. So that's just out there. Just so you know, we are living in dangerous times. And you should be aware of it. Another story or headline that I want to bring quickly to your attention. This is in the tip sheet for today, and you guys have heard me speak about this, but it came to our attention a week or two ago that the Biden administration was planning. That the Biden administration was planning to, let me click on it here. I'm sorry, guys. Basically, here's what it is. If you have bad credit, you're going to get better mortgage rates than people that have good credit. Well, that officially goes into effect or went into effect as of yesterday. So if you've worked your butt off to get ahead, if you had some bad credit and repaired your credit, or if you've been good at paying your bills all along and you've watched your credit score skyrocket because you've been a responsible adult, well, the federal government says, screw you. All right, so here's the story. Biden's punishing mortgage fees go into effect. Biden is intentionally penalizing this from townhall.com. Katie Pavlich, those who were responsible and kept their credit in check. All right. And a new mortgage rule from the Biden administration that punishes Americans with good credit in favor of financially irresponsible individuals. Implemented through the Federal Housing Agency, it's now here. It has arrived. The new rule brings back bad memories of the 2008 housing collapse, which happened as a result of similar policies and the government forcing banks to issue loans to unqualified individuals. Guys, don't change your habits as a result of this brain dead freaking communist administration. Do not do it. They want to disincentivize good practices, good habits. And this is one of them. Listen, a home is probably the most important asset that you can buy. It goes up in value, and having a great credit score, being able to pay off debt. All of these things are very important. And it's sad that this administration wants to disincentivize bad behavior, but this is exactly what they are doing. Okay. Now, let me give you this story quickly that I ran across this morning. This is on, let me see if I can find it here. I'm sorry. We're having technical difficulties, so I saved a lot of this stuff on my phone because I want to make sure that I talk about it. So, all right, so here it is. Hunter Biden is in court, baby mama drama. He's in court to reduce child support. Let me give you just a few of the, this from the Washington Free Beacon. Let me just give you a synopsis of what's going on here, and then I'll offer my take. By the way, you're listening to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, we need more of you following us or subscribing to our YouTube channel and our Rumble channel. The Carl Jackson Show on either places. Subscribe to the podcast. Wherever you go to get your podcast, it'll come right into your inbox. You don't have to worry about it. We're not asking for anything. But if you like this podcast, we ask that you listen. But not only that you listen, but you share it with friends, family, strangers, whomever. We would certainly appreciate it. Before I go forward, let me just quickly tell you about this movie Pardoned by Grace that we're supporting now, that we're supporting at Salem Now. We want you guys to be inspired. Stories of faith are always inspiring. So from the makers of Graham Family Films comes a powerful and inspiring true story that's going to touch your heart and it's going to renew your faith. Introducing Pardoned by Grace. This is the incredible journey of Scott Heiberger, played by Joey Lawrence, or the actor Joey Lawrence. He's a convicted criminal turned prison minister who defies all of the odds and receives an unlikely pardon to continue his ministry on the outside. Featuring Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter Michael W. Smith as Heiberger's pastor, Pardoned by Grace showcases a transformative power of redemption and the boundless reach of God's love and mercy. Watch Pardoned by Grace on Salem Now, and when you purchase a copy of the DVD at salemnow.com, portions of that sale will be donated to Scott Heiberger's nonprofit prison ministry called Behind the Wire Ministries, which provides hope and support to the incarcerated. Together, we can share the power of faith and forgiveness for all of those who need it most. Visit salemnow.com, salemnow.com, salemnow.com to purchase your DVD and donate to this incredible cause today. Por favor. Okay, so let me get into this issue of Hunter freaking Biden. And again, what do lesbian groomers Hunter Biden and Anthony Blinken have in common? These people, because they are Democrats, because they are on the left, they can get away with corruption and they can get away with perversion. In other words, they can get away with things that you can't. Those of us that believe in traditional values, those of us that believe in the God of the Bible, those of us that believe in the rule of law, well, the Biden administration is saying to you, screw you. We can do whatever the hell we want. We can flip the rule of law upside down. We can call the immoral moral, and you can't do a damn thing about it. This is what the left have in common. They're corrupt, they're perverted, and they get to get away with it because they are on the left. If you want to change this, you better get your butt in gear, not just for 2024, but pay attention to local races in your state in 2023, and frankly, that are out of your state. If you know of a race, I mentioned some, I talked about them on the podcast last week, donate to those races. I will be doing the same, even if it's a minimal amount. You just chip in whatever you can afford. We're fighting for freedom here, people. Now, all right, getting back to this fool, Hunter Biden, let me tell you what's going on. All right, latest, Biden to meet with McCarthy on debt limit talks. This from True Social. All right, so we'll wait and see what happens there. The Republican Party should not budge. They've already agreed to increase the debt limit by $1.5 trillion. Personally, I don't think they should do it, but they have tied it to spending cuts at least. They want to go back to 2022 spending levels, which were, how do I say this, high as all get out. But at least it's not going so crazy, or the spending isn't going so insane, and they're not cutting spending at all. At least they're wanting to cut spending. They want to go back to 2022 spending levels instead of growing from there, increasing the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion. Biden doesn't want to do that. Republicans shouldn't budge. They need to get out on camera every opportunity they get, not just on conservative media, liberal media, wherever they can be heard, and make the case. We've made the offer. We compromised. All right. We offered $1.5 trillion debt increase, but we want some spending cuts because we simply cannot afford it. You got the Federal Reserve that is looking to hike interest rates yet again. The dumbest move ever. Let me tell you something, guys. You know what we could have done, or you know what we should have done? We should have just followed Trump's policies. It's really simple. You continue to build the economy, you cut interest rates, and you allow people to build businesses and create jobs. And eventually what happens is the money runs out, and the inflation calms down because the economy is so good, people are spending their money. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the Federal Reserve didn't have to continue to hike interest rates. You could have just increased consumer goods and consumer services. These people in Washington are just dumb as all get out. They are dumb as all get out, and they want you to believe that they're smart, and they're not. They're not. But so many of us have been trained to think otherwise. All right. Speaking of dumb people, let's talk about Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden right now cries poor to reduce child support payments, cries he's poor. This, according to the Washington Free Beacon. Hunter Biden's lawyers painted him as financially strapped in his first appearance in an Arkansas court on Mondays as he sought to get his child support payments to his former mistress and their 4-year-old daughter reduced. Now, a lot of conservatives are excited about this because they're saying, finally, this fool will be held to account. We'll know what type of money he's bringing in off of Biden Inc., the corrupt business that the Biden family is running. Joe Biden claiming he had nothing to do with it, all types of evidence. That suggests now, that is out there, that not only did Joe Biden have something to do with Biden Inc., it's only because of him that Biden Inc. is able to exist, because of his power as vice president, and also and now as president. And they were basically influence peddling was what they did. You heard Mike McCormick come on to this program and talk about that. He was a stenographer for a few of the presidents. He was also a stenographer for Vice President Joe Biden when he witnessed a crime take place. They were talking about fracking in Ukraine. When I say he or they, I'm talking about Joe Biden, Jake Sullivan. He witnessed a crime taking place. They were talking about shaking down government, so to speak. My words, not Mike McCormick's, but essentially that's what they were doing. Now we get to the story of Hunter Biden, and everybody is excited. Hunter Biden is in court. He's got to pay child support. Right now, he pays $20,000 a month. Everyone is hoping. I'm looking at the wrong camera. I'm having technical difficulties again. All right, so I got to remind myself to look straight ahead here. All right, so Hunter Biden is paying $20,000 a month to his ex or baby mama. I'm not sure if it was a relationship or a one night stand with a stripper. And I don't say that to be demeaning, because people can go through things in life and change. Hopefully she's not doing that anymore. She's making enough on child support to support her child, and hopefully look for other avenues of income. So hopefully that is something she's doing. But I don't want to get on demeaning her. I want to talk about the deadbeat dad that is Hunter Biden. So Hunter, who made millions of dollars off of deals in cushy board positions from, according to the Washington Free Beacon, for foreign companies in the past decade, he currently has no salary. So he had his Porsche repossessed. So In other words, he went into court looking for sympathy because he wants to go ahead and get his child support reduced. How do you get your child support reduced? Guys, I can tell you, I've been through this scenario before. You have to be able to show the courts that you're not making the same money. You have to have verified, paycheck stubs, so on, et cetera, to show that you're not making money. But I can also tell you how you can scam the system and get around it. You don't have to be rocket scientists to figure it out. And I'll share that in just a sec. So according to Hunter Biden, he had his Porsche repossessed. He was forced to sleep on a cot in his father's room during a recent presidential trip to Dublin. Oh, how sad. Yeah. Biden's lawyers told the court he has also stooped to taking financial support from a generous friend, Hollywood lawyer by the name of Kevin Morris. The court heard on Monday. So Kevin Morris, who is a multimillionaire, is dishing up cash to Hunter Biden. And if it's cash payments, he's not going to divulge what those amounts are. And honestly, he could have purposely let the Porsche go back in repossession. It's not going to hurt him any. He's the son of the president, for God's sakes. He's making money. He's making money even on his payments, on his paintings, I should say. And the paintings, a lot of that information isn't divulged because apparently he's splitting the profits with the art gallery dealer. And the word is the art gallery dealer is not telling him who's buying the portraits so that there's no supposed conflict of interest, no influence peddling going on with the art dealership. We all know that is a bunch of that's a crock, because we know that these people are corrupt as all get out. All right. I mean, it's just absolutely insane, but this is where we are. So Biden, wearing a tight-fitting dark navy suit, appeared dejected. He walked into the county courtroom in a small town, Batesville, Arkansas, as a passing train whistled down the street. The article says he was flanked by D.C. Super lawyer Abby Lowell, who recently joined Biden's legal team in a custody case. Again, Lowell said Biden is paying London Alexis Roberts, that's his daughter's mother, $20,000 a month in child support. This under an agreement they reached in 2020, shortly after Joe Biden launched his presidential campaign. Lowell said Biden has paid Roberts at least $750,000 over the past few years. Now, it is possible that Hunter Biden isn't making as much money because now the Republican Party has their eyes on him. They have investigative power now that they control the House of Representatives. So it's going to be a little harder to do influence peddling with Joe Biden in the White House and the Republican Congress and some of the media on to the Biden corrupt family Inc. But the mother of his child, London Alexis Roberts, is arguing, yes, he can afford this child support. And part of the evidence is this guy, Hunter Biden, has hired some of the most expensive lawyers in the entire freaking world to represent him. So she's arguing, how can he say that he can't afford this child support, yet he can afford some of the most expensive and prominent attorneys in the freaking world? It's a good argument. It's a good argument. But all Hunter Biden is going to do is he's going to hide his income because he's able to hide his income. He doesn't have to do any influence peddling. He overseas. He doesn't have to worry about FARA. He can influence peddle right here in the United States of America with a bunch of rich liberals that want to cozy up to the White House in order to line their own pockets. And I believe they will pay him cash in order to have influence on his dad, or just because of the status. Just because they don't want liberalism to die, just because they don't want Joe Biden or Democrats to look bad. That's probably what Kevin Morris is doing. So, quite frankly, Hunter Biden is probably making cash money. He can hide cash money. And I think this is going to be I think conservatives are getting ahead of their skis, so to speak. I hope that we find out more about his income. I think he's going to be able to hide a lot of it, at least in the last couple of years. Maybe we'll get some nuggets of what transpired in 2020 and before. But I think we're going to be left wanting on this issue, frankly, when it comes to any point in time after Joe Biden has been elected. I think they're going to be hiding a lot of stuff cash. And again, he's playing I'm sleeping on my dad's cot. I don't know if that means in his mansion or, what, overseas. flying with his dad, all this kind of stuff. He reports that he only flew on Air Force one time. I mean, it's just unbelievable nonsense, but that's where we are. But Republicans are getting down to the corruption of the Biden family. We know 150 SARS reports have come in where there's obviously been some foreign influence peddling going on, these people making money hand over fist. But also, I would say this. There's no doubt in my mind that Hunter Biden has been living in a very extravagant lifestyle when it comes to housing, when it comes to prostitutes, when it comes to his drug habits. And I guarantee you that guy blows money like he's drinking water. There's no doubt about it in my mind. All right. So now, having said that, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out in court. But the goal for Hunter Biden is to get his child support reduced. The hope for the conservative movement and the Republican Party is we find out how much money this fool has been pulling down. But he is going to do his best to hide it using high-powered attorneys and getting cash payments from friends like Kevin Morris. All right. Now, here's another story. If you want to know the difference between or what lesbian groomers Hunter Biden and Anthony Blinken have in common, again, they can be corrupt. They can be perverted, but as long as they vote for the Democrat Party, as long as they donate to the Democrat Party, it matters not. It matters not. Understand that the left is all about chaos. They're all about disorder. They're not all about order. God is a God of order. All right. Democrats don't want order. In order for government to replace God, chaos must ensue. And then what happens? When chaos ensues in a civil society, then the people, the voters, start demanding and asking for someone to take charge, right? That's what happened even with the people of Israel, when you think about it. You know, they had God. They had God Almighty on their side. They were able to fellowship. They were able to speak with God, but they wanted a king. God told them this wouldn't be good for them, but they wanted it anyway. Chaos was ensuing. They wanted a king. And this is what the left knows. I don't know if they know this spiritually. I don't know if they know that lesson, but they get it politically. If chaos ensues, people start demanding action from their government. And the government can swoop in and take charge of people's lives. And that's exactly what the left wants. Head to Daily Mail. This is our next story. But before I get to that, I want to talk to you about my friends at MyPillow. Guys, right now, go to mypillow.com. Mike Lindell, listen, an American entrepreneur, an American success story, providing American products, right? American jobs, American manufacturing. MyPillow.com. Right now, they've got an offer. Buy one, get one free offer to my listeners exclusively when you go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L. You'll get the new MyPillow 2.0, plus you'll get one free. That's where the buy one, get one free offer comes in. Or you can give them a call at 800-858-0263. This new MyPillow 2.0 has a temperature regulating fabric or thread wrapped around the entire pillow. So now it's softer, it's smoother and cooler when you lay your head down to rest. Plus, it still comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money back guarantee. You cannot beat that with a bat. So go to mypillow.com, use my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, click on the radio listener square, put my name in the box, C-A-R-L, and that deal will be available to you. Plus, if you want, just browse the website. Any deals that are available, if you use my name, C-A-R-L, Carl, those deals will be available to you. Or give them a call, 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263. God bless MyPillow. Gabe, I want you to get this video lined up and ready to play before we get into or after I finish this next story here. Let me just share this story with you quickly, and then we'll close out with my last story here. But all right, so here's a story about Secretary of State Blinken. So Secretary of State Blinken has and his cabinet secretary wife were embroiled in an alleged attempt to influence U.S. officials on behalf of Burisma, and may have known Hunter was on the board despite telling investigators a different story. So this, according to the Daily Mail. So emails show, and they literally have the emails. I won't go through all of it just for the sake of time, but perhaps I'll dive into this more on a later date. Emails show Tony Blinken and his wife, Evan Ryan, corresponding with the consultancy firm that was hired by Hunter's Ukrainian gas company, Burisma. Let me read that again. There are emails that show Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and his wife, Evan Ryan, corresponding with a consultancy firm that was hired by Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company that Hunter Biden was on the board of. Blinken told Senate investigators under oath that he had, quote, no knowledge, close quote, of Hunter Biden's service on the board of Burisma. Hunter emailed Evan Ryan, Anthony Blinken's wife, to make sure her husband took a meeting with the consultancy firm to discuss, quote, some troubling events we are seeing in Ukraine, close quote. So Secretary of State Blinken and his wife, Joe Biden's cabinet secretary, Evan Ryan, were both embroiled in this attempt to influence U.S. government officials on behalf of the Ukrainian gas firm Burisma. Again, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and his wife, Joe Biden's cabinet secretary, Evan Ryan, were both embroiled in an alleged attempt to influence the U.S. government officials on behalf of Ukrainian gas firm Burisma. Blinken told Senate investigators under oath in 2020 that he had no knowledge of Hunter Biden's service on the board of Burisma and didn't know about Blue Star Strategies. He didn't know about Blue Star Strategies. Now, what is Blue Star Strategies? So Blue Star Strategies is a Democrat consultancy that was hired by the firm in 2015 to improve its image in Washington, D.C. So Burisma hired Blue Star Strategies, a Democrat consultancy hired by the firm in 2015 because they wanted to improve their image in Washington, D.C. Burisma did. But State Department emails show that Blinken spoke with Blue Star CEO Karen Tramontano at a political event around July 2016 while he was Deputy Secretary of State and agreed to have a coffee with her to, quote, discuss some troubling events we are seeing in Ukraine, close quote. And July 14, 2016, emails from Hunter's laptop show the first son checked in with Blinken's wife to try to make sure he took a call from Tramontano and her chief operating officer, Sally Painter, as well as meeting with Blinken himself at his State Department office in July 2015. There is no evidence that Blinken or Ryan tried to change U.S. policies on Burisma's behalf, but it certainly looks damning. Guys, I will dive into this story more deeply at a later time, but I want you to understand that the left gets to get away with corruption. They get to get away with perversion. They get to get away with undermining the rule of law because they're Democrats, because they donate to Democrats. This has got to stop. Last story that I want to bring you, but before I do, I want to play this video. I want to cue up this video. And again, please, guys, support my sponsors. Pardon by Grace. Go to salemnow.com. Check out the movie. You'll be inspired. I promise you. Go to salemnow.com. Get the DVD, Pardon by Grace, or you can watch it now at salemnow.com, salemnow.com, salemnow.com. Birch Gold Group. Guys, things are going to get tough. All right. The experts are saying we are headed into a recession. You see employers that are starting to cut back on jobs. More people are being fired now. We see that starting to pick up. There's still some people, higher income people, that are isolated, but some of those poorer people are starting to feel it. Middle class, really starting to feel it. I can tell you in my small business, really feeling the pinch. This is a troubling story too. I meant to mention this. I don't think I mentioned it. JP Morgan Chase regulator sees trouble First Republic Bank early Monday, making it the second largest bank failure in U.S. history, and promptly sold all of its deposits and most of its assets to JP Morgan Chase. Did you know JP Morgan Chase didn't even bid on that? Like, they didn't want it. The federal government just said, here. Isn't that interesting? Guys, these small banks, these medium-sized banks, they're in danger. Don't take your money out of these places. I think the federal government wants you to bank with the J.P. Morgan Chases of the world, the Bank of Americas of the world, the big banks, the Wells Fargos of the world, because they can control them. They can control their CEOs, in my opinion. But when you have local banks, you're in control. A lot of these community credit unions, you control those. You are the power. You are the bosses. Make sure you have your money deposited in those places, and hopefully don't run on the banks, because we see what the Biden administration is trying to do. A bank fails, they give it to one of these big banks. These big banks swallow it up, and they destroy the small banking market, the medium-sized banking market. So be very careful of that. Even more reason to check out my friends at Birch Gold Group. Text Carl to 989898. Get a free info kit on the Birch Gold Group, and make sure you get a good night's rest with MyPillow.com. Get the new MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free. Text the name Carl. All right, to or actually don't text the name Carl. Click on MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener square. Enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L. Or give them a call, 800-858-0263. We can't survive without them. All right, guys, without any further ado, let me just play this video real quickly. Let me set it up so that you know who it is. It's a city councilman, I believe, in Indiana. So an Indiana city councilman by the name of Ryan Webb. He's a Republican, ignited local outrage at a public council meeting last week after he declared himself an American Indian woman with a Facebook post 3 weeks ago. And a lot of people were frustrated at this. I want you to take a look at the pattern of the people that are frustrated with this. But Ryan Webb, I'll read some of the quotes from him after, but I want you to take a look. Look at the video. Subscribe to my Rumble page, The Carl Jackson Show. Subscribe to my YouTube page, The Carl Jackson Show. I want you to take a look at the video. Indiana City Councilman, look at all these people that are upset about what he said. He claimed, let me see if I can find this. He said, it is with great relief that I announce to everyone that I identify as a woman, and not just any woman, but as a woman of color as well. I guess this would make me gay lesbian as well, since I am attracted to women, he says. So he identified as an American Indian woman with a Facebook post 3 weeks ago. That's what Republican City Councilman Ryan Webb did. So you would think that the left would be very happy about this, right? Because Ryan Webb says, hey, I identify as a woman, trans. I identify as an American, as a Native American woman. All right. So now I'm a person of color. You should not be mad at me. I should be at the top of your totem pole. But that's not how these people felt. Yes, I said these people intentionally, because I want you to notice who all these people seem to be, what all these people seem to look like. Let's roll the tape here, Gabe, por favor.
The person Ryan Webb announced publicly on social media that he now identifies as a lesbian woman of color. If he were serious, I'd sing his praises. But instead, I know better.
In none of my jobs in the last 21 years, and that is many, many jobs, would I have been permitted to mock and disrespect my customers.
And if that were true, we would all be proud of you, and no one would be denying your right to do such things and to identify by your heritage. But your open mockery of these communities is insane.
In order to demand for the resignation of Ryan Webb. The posts Mr. Webb made on April 12th were offensive on many levels.
After hearing these complaints, Ryan Webb responded.
I'm being dead serious. You don't get to question me. You do not get to require proof from me. You were part of the movement to help establish these rules and set the bar.
Touche, Councilman. Touche.
He's using their own arguments against him, and they can't stand it. They want him to resign. Guys, these people are the epitome of freaking insane. And what did I tell you? Did you see who took to the podium? Besides the linebacker pretending to be a woman, the male linebacker pretending to be a woman, impersonating a female, it was all white liberal women. All white liberal women. These women that want to be noticed. These women that they're not black. They may not, or they may be lesbian. I'm not sure. But they want to be noticed. They're feeling left out. They're not victims. They want to be victims. They see the oppressed getting all the attention. They see the oppressed getting the scholarships. They see the oppressed, so-called oppressed, I should say, getting the jobs. And they just want to feel a part of something. They want to feel as though their life has meaning. They could find that in the church. They could find that in God. They can find it in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. But that's not where they're choosing to find it. They need to find their purpose. They need to find their meaning in government. They need to be accepted by society. And sadly, this is what's happening with a lot of these liberal white women. Now, that takes me to the last story. What do lesbian groomers, Anthony Blinken, and Hunter Biden have in common? They can be corrupt, they can be perverts, and they can undermine the rule of law as long as they vote Democrat. Hat Tip Revolver News. Women's sports best kept secret. It's one gigantic club med for lesbian groomers. We all know this. We all know this to be true, man. Oh, good God. Women's sports is a female groomer's paradise, and no one is talking about this, so we're going to talk about it here. We need to start paying attention to it. We talk about all these other places that are grooming children. We know that Governor Ron DeSantis has taken the fight to the people in these culture wars. Vivek Ramaswamy is talking about these culture wars. President Trump has talked about these culture wars in the past. But let's take the fight right to a place that it needs to be, and that is women's sports. We can talk about the males impersonating women that are taking over female sports in some instances. Riley Gaines is out there talking about it. But let's talk about this that we don't talk about, and that is the lesbian groomers. I don't know why this is a subject that is off bounds, but we're gonna put it in bounds today. All right, so there's a problem here. There's a problem here with lesbian groomers, female groomers we're talking about, because no one talks about this. You talk about male groomers, maybe male groomers that are coaches and swimming or, gymnastics like we saw. And people would be all over this. But what about the groomers that exist in women's sports that happen to be female? So there's older female coaches and strong veteran players who groom younger female athletes and turn women sports into basically a lesbian making factory. Guys, and I know this may sound like a joke. The Revolver News writes about it, but it isn't a joke. Even the Washington Post could ignore the WNBA's grooming problem. Here's what they wrote. Here's a sample of what they wrote in a Washington Post article. Alyssa is dating Dawana, who used to be married to Candace. Okay? Jasmine and Natisha are engaged. Natisha and Courtney used to date. Allie and a different Courtney are married, while Diana married her former teammate, Penny. This isn't a soap opera. This is the WNBA, and this is real. Again, imagine if men were grooming WNBA players. Or again, go back to swimming and gymnastics. What we saw in those sports where men were taking advantage of some of the women that participated in sports underneath them, under their care. Maybe it isn't just TikTok that we have to be concerned about as conservative dads, as Republican dads, as Christian dads. Maybe it isn't just TikTok. Maybe we need to be concerned with ESPN-loving, Bud Light-swilling fathers. Maybe they should be more concerned about the grooming of their daughters in sports, turning their daughters into lesbians, turning their daughters against traditional values. Guys, we have to go fight the culture wars wherever they take us. Carl, why are you bothering with the culture wars? Why are you wasting time with this? Guys, if we don't win these culture wars, if we don't help the next generation understand what makes America great, help them to understand objective truth, real science, do you think they'll even care to fight for this country? They won't. Foreign policy won't matter. Domestic policy won't matter. Feelings matter to the left. It's amazing, but it does. It's true. So, dads, if you know your daughter isn't going to the WNBA, and if she is, for God's sakes, prepare her and pray for her. Let her know what she's going to face. I got an example coming up in just a second here. If your daughter isn't going to be on the U.S. women's soccer team, pray her up. Make sure she's prepared for what she's going to face, because they're going to try to groom her. You have to understand that. But if you don't have daughters that are good enough to participate in sports in the long run and compete professionally, maybe start turning their attention elsewhere. Might not be a bad idea. Help them to discover their real strength. Because here's the deal. Revolver News writes about this. The left-wing feminist movement has been so successful that Republican dads are more worried about their daughters learning how to swing a golf club and shoot a jump shot than they are worried, the article goes on, about their daughters learning how to cook up a mean apple pie. Oh, Carl, that's sexist. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. The vast majority of women are not going to be participating in the WNBA. They're not going to be participating in professional swimming or gymnastics or golf. They're not. What's the matter with traditional values? Isn't it amazing how even conservatives have bought into the left-wing lie that women have to be like men? They have to play men's sports. They can't cook a mean apple pie. Frankly, I enjoy some of the women and also the men that are on the cooking channel cooking mean apple pies and other things. What's wrong with that? Sadly, even, I know a lot of people I get a lot of blowback from this, but I must speak the truth to you. And I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I've been so adamant about what the left is doing to destroy this country, I forget about what we as people of faith and conservatives, what we're not doing to make sure they don't destroy the country. Here's what one heterosexual said, who used to play for the WNBA. Candace Wiggins is her name. She said, me being heterosexual and straight and being vocal in my identity as a straight woman was huge. I would say 98% of the women in the WNBA are gay women. 98%. That is unheard of. It was a conformist type of place. There was a whole different set of rules they and other players could apply. According to Wiggins, if you weren't part of the, quote, lesbian club med, you paid a price. She describes a damaging culture within the WNBA where she was singled out and bullied for being heterosexual. She said, and I quote, people were deliberately trying to hurt me all of the time. I had never been called the B word so many times in my life than I was in my rookie season. I'd never been thrown to the ground so much. The message was, we want you to know we don't like you. She's a Christian. Let me talk to you about this Miami University head coach who had to step down, a lady by the name of Deanna Hendricks. All right, so the head coach of the Miami University of Ohio, by the way, the Redhawks women's basketball team head coach Deanna Hendricks stepped down from her position after intimate text messages revealed she was having a steamy sexual affair with a much younger player. Now, let me go back to what do lesbian groomers, what do Anthony Blinken, what does Hunter Biden, what do they all have in common? They can be corrupt, they can be criminals, they can be perverts, but as long as they're Democrats, it doesn't matter. They'll get a pass. Yes, she had to step down, but do we really doubt that? Obviously, if this was a man, the story would have been much larger than this. This would have been all over the news. This guy probably would have been facing some type of charges, a permanent expulsion. He would have never been able to teach again anywhere, more than likely. This lady, no doubt in my mind, will eventually be looked up as a trailblazer, a celebrated lesbian coach, as the columnist writes, a mentor, an activist, and trailblazer, so on, etc. And don't forget about women's soccer. What about women's soccer? There's a couple of major differences, the columnist writes, between men's soccer team and the women's soccer teams. One, the women's soccer team are actually good at it. Two, women's soccer is a hell of a lot gayer, he says. Yesterday, content producer, a person by the name of Alex Bentley from ITV News, published an article about why exactly so many dykes excel at soccer. It's a good question by Bentley's count. There were at least 41 openly gay players or coaches during the Women's World Cup this year. The last men's World Cup, in contrast, had zero gay players. So what gives? So the liberal answer, the columnist says, they question much differently than the rest of us. Liberals believe the reason of the staggering contrast between men and women's sports is largely due to homophobia. So if men are gay, they'll be ostracized, so on, et cetera. That's just so stupid. They are uplifted in today's society. Bentley says this is largely due to homophobia. She says that, okay, it's a girl. All right. So she says that men's soccer, especially outside of the U.S., is chock full of homophobes, as well as sexists and racists who would not welcome openly gay male players in the sport. All right. Obviously, another lazy response. All right. But critical thinkers, the columnist writes, would look at these scenarios and at least entertain the theory that the LGBT ideology contributes greatly to this grooming mentality and behavior that permeates women's sports. It's based around this notion that all girls have some secret underlying lesbian tendencies. That's what they believe. And that notion then becomes a twisted justification for coaches and players to target vulnerable victims. Listen to this part. Perhaps they push this false narrative that a person is depressed because they're not being true to their authentic self. And honestly, they use this tactic to manipulate and control some of their victims, some weak people. Did you know that some parents do this as well? Certain transgender advocacy groups do this. Certainly, the coaches like Duana, what's her name, Hendricks, do this. Deanna Hendricks. It's crazy. Here's a conclusion that I thought was very good. The statistics speaks for themselves, the author says. The disproportionate number of lesbians within women's sports is not a normal occurrence. This trend indicates a culture of grooming and unhealthy behavior and abuse. It makes you wonder how many female athletes initially identify as heterosexual. That is very important. How many of these athletes go into a sport and they're heterosexual and then all of a sudden Shanae is gay? Similar to Candace Wiggins, but ultimately succumb to the bullying and grooming culture within their sport and transition to identifying as lesbian. This is why it's so important to have God on your side. The reasons why Candace Wiggins was able to undergo and endure the abuse from the WNBA is because of her faith in God. But these ladies that don't believe in God or have a nominal belief in God, and government is their God and their feelings are their God, they're going to succumb to this nonsense. And that's exactly what's happening. We need to stop letting the left get away with destroying this country by undermining the rule of law, by being allowed to get away with perversion just because they're on the left and be celebrated. We cannot allow the immoral to become moral and to be celebrated. And that's exactly what the left is doing. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe. We really need you to subscribe. I don't know how else to say it. This show can't grow without you. All right. So if you like what you hear, please share it with your friends and family members. We would certainly appreciate it. Our social media pages, you can go to Instagram, Twitter, Getter, True Social, and Facebook. The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find us. The same is true for podcasting. Obviously, subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, the carljacksonshow.com, or wherever you go to get your podcast. We would appreciate it. Also, our YouTube and Rumble account, the Carl Jackson Show. Subscribe, rate, and review. You'll get the podcast right in your inbox, and we would really appreciate that, guys. And until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.